I just bought half a broken computer off eBay. Do you want to know why? Well, there are a few things about this auction that got me interested. So let's just we'll go through them in a moment. But I managed to get it for a priceless sum of £10.78, and nobody else seems to be bidding on this particularly. And the postage was £7. Overall, cost me about £18 or $22 or something like that. And there's a few things that got me interested. One is the auction seemed to be trying to sell 2 sticks of memory. It doesn't really talk about the rest of the computer, which is a bit odd. But if you look behind there, you've got this massive CPU cooler. And you don't put a massive CPU cooler on just an average CPU. So I got to wondering whether this was actually quite an interesting computer. So I wonder what's under there. We'll find out in a bit. The other thing that got me interested was these optical drives. So in themselves, there's nothing very exciting about a couple of optical drives. But if you look closely, they're not beige. They look silver. The card reader also looks a little bit silver. So I'm wondering whether actually this was kind of like an aluminium case across the front. And I do have some aluminium cases that could do with some silver optical drives. So that is quite appealing to me, if that's what they are. They may be beige, I don't know till it arrives, but I'm hoping they're silver. Next up was the case itself. It's got these quick release fasteners for the drive cages, and it's got a removable drive cage. It looks like it's a decently built case, and you wouldn't put that kind of cooler in and a double optical drive in a cheap computer. I think this probably was a decent computer. And have a look at this cooling fan on this graphics card. It looks like a golden orb, doesn't it? I don't think it is, but yeah, that could be a decent graphics card in there. I don't think it's a 9500 Pro or a 9700 Pro like I have been after for a while, but I think it's a decent graphics card for the time. And this is all built on an Asus P5K motherboard. So I put in some bids, got it for £10.78. I'm hoping it's worth it for the components. It may or may not be working in itself, but I think there might be some interesting stuff under the hood, as it were. And it has arrived. So this is how it arrived, literally. I had a quick word with the seller when I paid for it, saying the cooler looked like it was a bit top heavy, could we pack it around it and lie it down? And he agreed. He was very amenable to all of that. And this is how it's come, and this is how the courier delivered it. And there's a definite top here. That definitely has not been obeyed. So who knows if that cooler is still attached and whether the motherboard is split in two. It was dropped. It wasn't dropped, but it was put down quite heavily as well when the courier delivered it. So yeah, so I'm not necessarily expecting it to be in as good a shape as it was in the photo. Not that it was in very good shape then either. Let's get it open and see what's in there. Okay, well, it was very well packed, including having carpet across the front, so thank you to the seller for that. It's pretty much what I expected across the front. We have got 2 silver drives here and a silver card slot, but it has actually got more to the case. Oops, side fell off. It has got more to the case than I thought. It's got both sides, which weren't shown in the eBay listing. It has been packed inside, which is nice. But yeah, look, that cooler's loose. That's a shame. Yeah, that's come right off. Hopefully it hasn't broken too much. Oh, look, one of the RAM modules has come out as well. Couriers are never really very good, are they? Let's just place that down there. Oh, look at the size of these dust bunnies. They are huge and they're really brown. It doesn't smell like a smoker. Looks like maybe it's been in kind of like a woodworking shop or something. It's particularly brown dust. It's not grey. But fortunately it doesn't smell horrendous. So what have we got? We've got a Titan, a ZX Titan fan with 3 heat pipes. It's like a 775 connectors. That's what we saw in the photos. We've got a single stick of DDR2. It's 1 gig. It's the Corsair XMS2, so it's kind of slightly upmarket version. That's nice. The socket doesn't look broken, fortunately. Let's get the other one out. So that is a matching pair as per the advert. Interestingly, the RAM slots have different sized. Let me get you a better view. So the RAM slots have different sized connectors, different sized ejectors on them. One's wide and one's narrow. Don't know how well that's coming across on the video, but that's a bit weird. Never seen that before. And it is in the Asus P5K SE EPU. And now that the heatsink's been ripped off the CPU, we should better work out what that is. We'll get that cleaned up, but let's have a look at the graphics card first. Is it going to be a Radeon 9700 Pro? Don't think so. It's the right colour board, but the wrong kind of connector. How does this come off? Oh, there we go. So it's got a connector and it's got screws. In fact, it's a double width card. It's a palette branded one. It is so dusty. So dusty. And brown. Brown and dusty. This bracket's a bit loose. So what have we actually got? Not a Radeon 9500 Pro. Got a 9600 GT. Okay, so DDR3, 2 DVIs, half a gig of RAM. That's an okay card. It's not top end. Everything on this channel seems to be mid-range, and that's a kind of mid-range card. We're doing all right for £10, assuming it's working. All the components look fine, apart from the dust. Okay, I don't know if you can see that from this camera angle, but it is a Core 2 Duo E8400, so that's actually a pretty decent processor. They are, I think they're the second fastest dual core you can get on the Socket 775, so that's a pretty decent processor. They're not super expensive or anything, but they are pretty nippy for the time. Now there is another card in here. On the outside it's got a UHF socket, so I think that's a tuner card of some kind. Let's get it out and have a look. It's an ADTE700, whatever that is. It's got Realtek chips on this side. Probably some kind of TV tuner. I'll have to look that one up. My hands are brown, they're just totally brown. Brown dust over everything. So what are we going to do next? Normally, if you've seen any of my videos, you'd normally know that I'd just plug it in and turn it on at this point and see if the smoke comes out. But I think the amount of brown dust on this requires a clean before we touch anything else. So let's do that next. So here we have it, all disassembled, all very, very dusty, very brown. Let's do a cleaning montage and then put it back together. Okay, let's get this motherboard back together. So let's get rid of the old CR2032. Put in a fresh one. There's no date on that, but I'm sure it's needs replacing. Put the RAM back in, but first of all, let's try and get this CPU cooler reattached. So personally, I really hate the 775 cooler solution with the little expanding tabs that go through the holes, but that's what we got. So let's see what we can do with what we've been given. One of the tabs has broken off one of the corners, so it may not securely sit inside the holes, unfortunately. So it may not securely sit in the hole, but we won't know till we try. And this is always really difficult as well, without the board being lifted off the ground. So we want the airflow going to the back of the case, so we want the fan blowing this way. Yep. Hate it. So in my box of case fan, CPU fans, I've got this Arctic Alpine 11 revision 2. That's probably going to be appropriate, I think, for this motherboard. Again, I'm not going to video this, I just find it so frustrating. And there we go, it's on. No swearing involved. Let's get the RAM in. So these are the RAM sticks that came with the machine, DDR2, 1 gig in each unit. And judging by the color coding on the motherboard for the RAM slots, looks like it's dual channel, as most of them are. There we go, that's in. Okay, let's get this bad boy back in the case. Let's get the I/O shield in. The case is a bit bent just here, so I'm not sure it's going to stay in by itself. No, it seems to. So there's no motherboard tray or anything. Actually, before we put this in, we should probably put the power supply back in. That'll be much easier now. So the other thing we haven't done yet is tested the power supply, so let's do that. Well, that's not a good sign, is it? I thought about coming on, but then decided not to. Yep, I think the power supply is faulty. It's probably one of the reasons why it was being sold so cheaply. So the other power supply was faulty. I put in a Cooler Master one that's working. I haven't had time to clean it, but since I took it out of a machine, but I know this one works. So let's use that. So hopefully when the power supply let go, it didn't take out the motherboard with it. We'll find out soon enough. Screws are back in, everything seems secure. Let's start attaching cables. So this is always hard to film, these small connectors here, but hopefully we can get a decent camera angle. This motherboard's got a floppy controller and a floppy connector on it, so this would make a good bridge machine. If you want something that runs fairly fast but still supports floppies. Next we've got front panel USB to go on, so there's two that just come through the front of the case, and then there was going to be the other two supplying the front panel card reader. Talking of which, I'm going to put that in now because it will be hard to do later. The other thing that's going to be hard to get in later is the IDE cable for the optical drive, so let's do that now. So the other thing we haven't done is the case fan, so let's put that in next. Be a shame not to put it in after cleaning it. Graphics card next. There we go. Nearly there. So you need to get the optical drives in and then decide what we're doing about hard disk. So the two drives are both LG branded. I think they may be original to this machine. Don't know for certain, but it seems interesting that they're both pretty much exactly the same. This one's a DVD writer, the other one's a DVD ROM. That was quite a common combination in the XP era. These doors have got seals around them, so when I opened them up, the inside was actually pretty clean. So I'm hoping they won't need a service. We'll just put them back in for now and see what happens. So it's got this quick connect type arrangement, which is nice. And both the optical drives are really short, which helps leave plenty of room for cables here. There we go. We'll give them some power in a moment. It's also got this very nice swing out hard drive cage, so you lift this up and swing that around to put your drives in and out. So we're going to be using a hard drive in this machine. I've got a couple of different thoughts on what we could use, but let's get the rest of this cable up first. I'm not going to do any kind of cable management at the moment. We're just going to let it all float around. So for hard disks, I've got what would kind of really suit this machine period-wise would be a Western Digital Raptor 10K drive. I've got several of those, but I'm saving them for a special project. So instead I'm just going to put in an SSD in here for now, which would be even better, but not as interesting. So for the hard drive, I'm just going to use a 3 gigabit per second SSD from Intel, it's 120 gig. This motherboard only supports SATA 2, so this is the perfect type of drive for it. And we're not going to be precious about this, we're just going to let it float around on one of these drive bays without screwing it in, at least for now. So I'm just going to jank it in there. Okay, we're actually pretty much ready. All you now is the screen and the keyboard. One thing I forgot to mention on this is that on the case there is a Windows XP Home Edition OEM certificate, and it's the one with the kind of wiggly edges. I think it's a later style sticker. Okay, we've got a black and silver monitor for our black and silver case and black and silver mouse. I don't have a black and silver keyboard to hand. I've got this lovely white one that doesn't match anything. So can we get this to boot? One of these is going to be the power button, not sure which one it is. It is that one. Okay, well we've got fans spinning up. Oh, we have a video signal. Brilliant. Okay, let's see if we can get into the BIOS. Okay, please enter setup to recover BIOS settings. Okay, F1 to run setup. Okay, so we have an AMI BIOS, so pretty standard stuff, nothing very exciting there, or nothing very unusual here, I should say. Let's give it a reasonable date and time, just so it's happier later on. So the BIOS is dated 2002, so that's how old it is probably. We have no floppy disk drive. It's detected the hard drive, which is good. We don't have the option of doing IDE or AHCP system information. So Core 2 Duo E8400 been recognised, 3 gigahertz, 2 cores. Lovely. 2 gigs of memory has been recognised as well. The BIOS is from 2008. Everything's on auto. CPU, that's all on auto. So it looks like we can do some overclocking if we need to. Okay, we want to boot off one of these optical drives first. Then the hard drive. We can ignore the floppy. Okay. I wonder if there's anything on that SSD. We also need to know whether these optical drives work. Well, the tray mechanisms work. Let's see if we can boot off one of them. Can we boot off the optical drive? Yeah, I was thinking about it. So the optical drive's working, nice. So basically the motherboard's working, CPU's working, optical drive is working, at least the top one, and that graphics card is working as well. So the only thing that wasn't working is the power supply. Not bad for £10. Okay, we're going to cut to the end of the Windows XP install and see what this machine can do. Okay, Windows XP is installed really quickly. 15 minutes maybe from front to end, including multiple reboots. We haven't got all the drivers installed for everything, so we haven't got the Ethernet controller. USB is a bit unknown, hasn't got the display adapter either, but everything else has worked out of the box, so that's really good. It's even detect the monitor at the correct resolution. Cool, so let's get some drives installed and see what we can do next. Okay, I've done a load of synthetic benchmarking and let's quickly talk about the results. So 3D Mark 2001, I couldn't get 3D Mark 2000 to run at all actually on the system, interestingly, at least with these drivers. So 3D Mark 2001 is the lowest or earliest benchmark we have, and that comes out at 48,500, so a very decent score for 2001. 3D Mark 2003 also gave a really good score, 34,000, not bad at all. 18,000 in 3D Mark of 2005. 06 gets 10,500, and obviously we can't run Vantage on this because it hasn't got Vista on it. Some pretty decent 3D Mark scores. This is a mid-range GPU, don't forget, and it's a pretty good CPU. So some things are going to be CPU limited, some things are going to be GPU limited, but overall pretty decent scores for a £10 computer. What about hard disk? Well, with this SSD in, we're maxing out the SATA 2 bus. We're getting, saturation of the bus. This drive is faster than the computer can handle, essentially. So that's HD TAC, there's HD Tune. If you want some random numbers, so you've got 3 Mark 3 here, which is the one I normally use. So you've got very good reads, not so fast in the writes, but it's not a it's a mid-range SSD from the appropriate time. So it's, it's not a fast SSD, but look at these other numbers down here, very, very fast, certainly way faster than a mechanical hard drive would be. What about some gaming? Well, let's use my usual Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. That's the thing I tend to benchmark most with XP machines. It's a challenge for them because it's kind of right at the XP era. So here in the swamp with trees and stuff, we're getting 45 frames per second. This is at the native resolution of the screen and the recommended video settings, which is mostly medium to high. Let's go indoors, see if that makes a difference. Say 90 frames a second. Let's head off to something a little bit more demanding. So over 100 frames a second here in the house. So the next bit's usually quite challenging, where we get an increased number of characters. So we're still getting 45, 50 frames a second. Yeah, over 100 frames a second down here at times. So don't forget, LCDs at this time only had 60 Hertz frame rates, so anything over 60 is technically a waste. Yeah, this is totally playable. So there we have it, a £10 Windows XP gaming machine. Not bad. Technically it was £11, so £10.70 something. Delivery was on top of that, so it was about £8 in postage. So for somewhere around £18, we got a working machine. We did have to replace the CPU fan. It got damaged in transit, which I suspect would happen. It's such a top-heavy design, and UK couriers aren't super respectful of whatever's written on the packaging. Certainly wasn't being held up the correct way that the seller had written on the box. So, just have to live with that. So we did have to replace the CPU fan, and we did have to provide a hard disk. But, for just over £11, we have a fully working mid-range Windows XP machine that can run pretty much anything prior to 2006. And certainly a game from 2007 was running really well on there. Dropped down to 45, 42 frames per second occasionally, but most of the time it was above 60 frames per second, sometimes quite considerably above that. So not bad for an XP gaming machine. What am I going to do with this system next? Well, I'm probably going to strip it for parts. Actually, those silver bezels on the optical drives are really, really useful. They're both working, by the way. That mid-range 9600 card, graphics card, that's going to be useful. Socket 775 CPU. It's not the top end, but it's pretty close to it. It's actually a pretty decent performance for a dual-core machine from that era. You won't get many faster machines that run a single thread faster than that. So overall, great machine. I hope you enjoyed the video. I thought it was interesting to see what you can get for £10. Obviously it's ugly as sin because it's missing its faceplate, but I think overall it could be a really good bridge machine because it's got a floppy drive controller on there and it's got plenty of USB 2s, etc. So it's a machine that could bridge the gap between your floppy based machines and your modern machines. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Did you think it was an interesting video? It's amazing, I think, what you can get for value for money, but was it actually a waste of £11? You know, should I save that up and spend it on something a bit more important? Maybe. See you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll do it all again in a couple of weeks.